Hey AP Physics 1, good morning, welcome. Let's talk about that summer assignment you did. First, I want to preface this. This is not a math class. If you notice that this entire summer assignment was essentially just review of math concepts, you're right, because I don't want math to be the sticking point for us as we progress through this difficult content. So ultimately, the idea is you'd be able to do all of this sheet perfectly, no mistakes, but I threw in some wrinkles and tricks and really hard problems. So I'm going to walk you through, and I might gloss over a couple problems and say, hey, throw this in your calculator, look this up on Google, because that's what I would expect in the classroom as well. So don't be surprised if you hear some of that stuff. And then ultimately, if you go through this whole thing and you still have questions, which you might, because I'm going to go quick, I'm not going to cover every detail, make sure they get answered. And then if you're worried about this math stuff, just remember, every day you're going to have your calculator, and we're going to do a little bit each day. This is the entire math for the entire semester. So, let's go. This first part, dealing with scientific notation and doing real hard calculations, there's a couple reasons for this. One, we have scientific notation quite often. Especially when we get to dealing with electric charges, you probably notice to the -9th quite a bit. That's going to come up. But also because of the way we have to write some numbers, scientific notation comes in very handy. Don't be scared of it. Remember, it's just a number. And when we're dealing with a calculator, if you put it in parentheses, it makes total sense. So for this first section, the biggest thing I could say is throw it in your calculator, use lots of parentheses. So notice in question number 1 here, I would have put parentheses around this 4.5, and then after the -2, I would have put the 2 times 10 to the -3 in parentheses as well. Now, they did say, and this is kind of, are you paying attention, to use 3 for pi. We're going to approximate a lot, right? 3 for pi, the acceleration due to gravity is going to be 10. So just kind of get used to that. And then the second part to this whole assignment is the units. Can you follow what's going on with the units? So here you have kilograms divided by kilograms per second squared. So really the kilograms cancel, but the seconds per squared is still in the denominator. So that one's a little tricky, but we will see that. So moving on to B, if you're looking closely, this is just a multiplication across the top and then divided here. Pay attention to the square. Notice parentheses are already built in for us, so that makes life easy. And then here, C is coulombs. Coulombs times coulombs will give you coulombs squared. That will cancel. Meters squared will cancel with meters squared. You'll be left with just newtons. This next equation looks really goofy, and it's an actual physics equation to find resistance. So we will be using something like this. Notice on the right-hand side of this equation, it's all just a number. Right? So just find out whatever that number is. And so you could have 1 over a number equals 1 over r. You can do the cross multiply, right? Flip it using reciprocals. Depending on where your math is, you might approach that a little differently. Notice I did write my answer of 304 in scientific notation because that's what the directions asked for. And then when we add units, they have to be the same unit, which we'll see here in the next problem. So ohms plus ohms just gives us ohms. Moving on. This next one's a little tricky, right? The math here is not much different than the math you've done so far, right? You have scientific notation times scientific notation minus scientific notation. Use parentheses, you're good. The trick here is the units. Here, we can multiply and divide units all day long, and they act just like numbers. So joules times seconds will give me joules times seconds squared. I can't just subtract joules, though. So notice I have this really ugly, goofy unit over here. Just be aware of that. E, once again, I drew in a lot of parentheses here to make life easy for me, as long as you're using parentheses. Now, some of you might do a step-by-step approach instead of putting it all into your calculator at once, where you'd probably go, okay, I put this in and this equals this, and then you do answer divided by this, and then you do 1 minus answer, and then you'd square root the answer. That's okay, too. You end up coming out with a perfect 2 here, and the units, meters per second, cancel with meters per second. You have no units. That sounds weird, but that just means that that is a constant. Here, be careful with the exponent. Make sure that you are doing 2 times 11 times, or 2.11 times 10 to the 4th squared, and then multiplying it by the half. And then the units you get here are kilograms, and then because the meters per second unit was squared, you have meters per second squared here. Now, not meters per second squared, but meters per second squared. Kind of goofy. We'll see how that unit plays out when we get to our energy unit. And then this last one on here, be really careful. This is the inverse sine function we're going to have to use. The left-hand side of this equation is just a number. So throw it in your calculator, get a number, divide both sides by the 1.5, and then take the inverse sine to get 22 degrees. Here, solving equations. My biggest thing that I'm going to ask you to do quite often is make sure that you solve the equation before you plug in your numbers. So for solving for x, I want the equation to read x equals. I want it to equal g equals, r equals, etc., etc. So this is all just algebra. Nothing too tricky. Kind of just do step by step. I didn't show my work here. I just gave you the answer. If you want to go step by step through some of these are the questions you should ask in class. Now I'm going to point out E. I love this question because it's tricky. I noticed looking through some of your summer assignments, some of you came up with an answer here that is nothing close to this. We have t and we have t squared. Those are, t is the variable we're trying to solve for, but we can't combine those because they're not the same exponent. So ultimately what you have here is a quadratic formula, right? You have an x squared and x, so it would be like ax squared plus bx plus c. That's kind of, I rewrote it here in that form. So just kind of be aware of that. And then I just threw all the correct variables into our quadratic formula. There's going to be times where if you're working on a problem, you get to that point where you're like, I have to use a quadratic formula. Okay, there's never a problem I give you or the AP test they'll give you where you have to use a quadratic formula. There may be times where you stumble into it and then you can use it, or you can backtrack and find a different way to solve the problem. So once again, just a little bit more algebra here. Once again, that's that inverse sine function. So if you need help with that, haven't gotten to that in your math classes, don't be afraid. I will go over that in class when we get to that point. All right, conversions. I'm not going to spend any time here. Right? There's really only 3 conversions that I ask that you know off the top of your head. Kilometers, meters, centimeters, be able to move between those 3. And then grams to kilograms. In physics, we use kilograms for everything when we're dealing with mass, not grams. So just be aware of that. Any other conversion, I would expect you to look it up. So they walk through grams, kilograms, kilometers to meters, nanometers to meters. We will deal with nanometers when we deal with our wave unit, so just heads up. Notice, like Kelvin to degrees Celsius, Google, right? Atmospheres to pascals, Google, right? I'm not going to trick you, not surprise you. It's not on a test. I will never ask you to do this. The only ones I ask you to know are kilometers, meters, centimeters, millimeters, kind of, and then also the kilograms to grams and grams to kilograms. Geometry, right? Notice, just some simple things. The reason I want to have a definition of what a tangent is because I will use the word tangent quite often. And we will talk about tangent to a circle. So know that that is a 90-degree angle for a line that runs from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. And then here for part B, know that all of the angles of a triangle add up to, fill in the blank. You should know that by now. Looking congruent angles versus angles that add up to 150. So notice if this is a straight line at 180, I mean 180, right? So here it has to be 150 to get to my 180. So here, this angle down here would be another 30-degree angle. Just, we have to be able to play that game sometimes of knowing where our angles are and where they're coming from, right? D, I will walk us through this the first time we have this to the point where like I'm doing goofy stuff where I'm tipping in the classroom and I'll ask you to tip your head in the classroom. But I also want to know this. If everything was set up on a flat horizontal surface, right, the angle would read 0 degrees, and this, which we're going to eventually call our normal, is at 90 degrees. Great. Well, if I tip everything 30 degrees, so lift this platform up 30 degrees, everything else shifts by 30 degrees. So this normal here is off from this 90-degree mark by 30 degrees. Now, we could play the game with a lot of good geometry and a lot of right triangles, but for me it's easier to understand that we tip the whole thing 30 degrees, so that knot line is now 30 degrees off from where it was. Right, circumference, area, just simple math there. If you didn't know what the circumference of a circle was, look it up. If you didn't know what the area of a circle was, look it up. I'm not going to trick you. That's always going to be an option for you. To be honest, it is going to be on your equation sheet for AP Physics, so I'm not worried. Just know how to plug it in. The big catch was here, I gave you everything in centimeters. They wanted it in meters and square meters. So a little conversion there to kind of pay attention to what's going on. The area under the curve at the right. That definitely sounds like a calc concept, right? Calculus. And it is. We're going to talk about some of the calculus concepts in this class. Not as far as integral and derivatives, but the idea of area under the curve, slope, and things like that. So whenever you hear area under the curve, I mean, here's the curve. That's the whole line. So this whole line, the area between that and the x-axis. So I just found the area of this rectangle to be 48, 4 times 12. The area of this triangle, 1/2 base times height, is 16. Add them together, I get 64. And then because I love units, it is units squared. All right, I know I'm cruising. Like I said, if any of this is still questionable, make sure to get it answered. Trig. I put a list on the right-hand side there of things you need. Right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Boom. Check it out. If you know 2 side lengths, you can always find the third. And then sine, cosine, tangent, or SOHCAHTOA, as some people will put it, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, which in this case is b over c. Cosine theta is adjacent over hypotenuse, which would be a over c. And then tangent is when you don't know anything about the hypotenuse, it's opposite over adjacent, or b over a. So notice as they gave me information, I go, okay, I have the angle and I have c. So if I have the angle and I have c, I can find b. If I have the angle and I have b and c, I can find a, etc. So you got to play the game of which one of these do you need to use. Now, the big trick here, and some of you got it, L, right? If you have side b and hypotenuse 65, well, that's goofy. That's not a right triangle, right? Something crazy happened. Now, this is part of the class. I love the problem solving. I saw that some of you instantly went, well, Mr. Rosen probably made a mistake, and you crossed off b and wrote in c equals 104 and b equals 65 and then solved it that way. Not a bad approach. I would have liked to have seen, hey, I think this is messed up. What's going on? And some of you did that, which was great. So just be aware that was kind of a trick in there to see if you guys could catch that. Vectors. Vectors are a way to represent vector quantities, which are magnitude and direction. So how big is the number and which direction is it? So when we're dealing with velocity, acceleration, force, momentum, all of these things are vector quantities. We can represent them graphically. So here it talked about 2 different things, the parallelogram method and the tip to tail. To be honest, I hate the parallelogram method. There's going to be times where you might want to use it, but tip to tail will always work, and it's easy to remember because you just put the tip of the arrow on the tail of the arrow and then you're good to go. So looking at that, I drew those all in there. You can pause the video, kind of check them out, make sure they're good. Notice I labeled all of the R's. Those are the resultant vectors. That's what the result would be. So just kind of a heads up there. Couple tricky things, right? Negative S just means we have to flip the direction. So notice negative S goes the same opposite direction, but same magnitude as S. And so that's just the difference between positive S and negative S. And then component vectors, this is going to be huge. We're going to use this starting in the first unit, use it in the second unit, third unit. I don't think we stop using it until like the 5th unit or something like that. But this is how we are able to do 2-dimensional physics and not just 1-dimensional physics, is really the component vectors. So looking at that, right, breaking it down, if here is my vector, how much of it is in the x direction, how much of it's in the y? How much is in the x direction, how much is in the y? And we'll mathematically be able to break that down as well using our right triangle math. Because if you notice, you drew a bunch of right triangles here. So that's really kind of important, right? And then notice direction matters. So this would be negative x, negative y. Here would be positive x, positive y. So we have to pay attention to those signs because direction does matter. So breathe easy. This isn't a math course, right? If there's anything you need, let me know. I will see you in class soon. So other than that, Jesus loves you. I'm praying for you guys. Take it easy.